Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, including the stuff from Darkness Ablaze, make sure you go ahead and check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using the code OmniPoke. For today's video, we are looking at an updated build of Baby Blounce / Welderbox. It's kind of a mishmash of the two. This really reminds me of way back when we sort of saw the birth of Welderbox, and then that happened obviously at the World Championships, and then like quite soon after, Robin Schultz, a previous world champion in his own right, he came up with a sort of adaptation of Welderbox that added in Blacephalon and a bunch of Fire Crystals. And I think revisiting that aspect has been the best way that I've found Blacephalon to play in the new format. So the idea being that we're not trying to Fireball Circus every single turn of the game like we have been with previous renditions, where we had good old a skateboard for our Jirachis and good old Fiery Flint to get those early Fireball Circuses off. Now we're trying to work towards early Heatran plays. The Heatran gets knocked out after a big GX attack, then a bunch of energy naturally hit that discard pile for Fire Crystal to be live in the sort of mid-game for a big Fireball Circus turn here or there. So really trying to pick your battles with Blacephalon is really what I'm trying to do now, using the Volcanion for some early pressure with High Heat Blast. Heatran's in here, obviously. Steaming Stomp is good numbers, as well as the potential for a big Hot Burn GX attack is fantastic. We do have those 2 copies of Blounce, so Fireball Circus is on the table for a couple big knockouts, and we have things like Cramorant V, which can try and clear things up at the end of the game as well. So that's kind of what I'm rocking with this. I've tried a few different variations of this already. I've had things like the Zacian line in here to Intrepid Sword when you're passing into things. I've preferred using things like Flare Starter. I've had a second Cramorant in here. I've had Dubwool in here. I've had a few other bits and bobs. I've had Boss's Orders going on as well, but I'll talk through why we're at this exact 60 as we go. So let's jump into it. First of all, we are playing 4 Stellar Wish Jirachis. Still super important for Welder-based decks. I think getting those Giant Hearths and Welders are just too integral to say no to. Giving ourselves some optimal leads is always a good thing as well. And just throughout that mid-game, our worst enemy is normally the things like Marnies and Reset Stamps, especially when we do still require to Fireball Circus once or twice in the game for the most part. Trying to get those combo pieces like those crystals is pretty integral. From there, we have a bunch of other supporting Pokemon. Oricorio-GX has become one of my new best friends in this format because it feels like you can fizzle quite a lot, and there's no real room to fizzle in the format right now. You need to make sure you keep hitting your next Welders, your next Fire Crystals, all that good stuff. So Dancer Tribute, giving yourself an additional 3 cards is very nice, especially because none of our stuff is all that tanky. Heatran being our biggest boy alongside the Cramorant with like 190 and 200 hit points. Stuff goes down quite a lot. The Dancer Tribute gets us towards more Welders, gets us towards more Giant Hearths and more Fire Crystals, so that's all important stuff there. Couple copies of Dedenne. If we're whiffing those Welders, you can dump the hand and draw 6 more, which is never too bad. Also 1 copy of Crobat V if you're holding one part of the combo but need the rest. For example, if you have 1 or 2 Fire Energies in your hand, or 1 or 2 Fire Crystals in your hand, but you don't have the Welder just yet, you can try and grab the Crobat instead, and try and draw it that way, so you're not dumping things along the way, which is actually really helpful when you want to try and protect crystals if you can, and if you're holding Welder and waiting on that Hearth. So Crobat's a nice additional option to Dedenne that can be done in the same turn, but also lets you hold pieces here and there, which is kind of nice. We are playing 1 copy of Eldegoss V for that happy match, so you can try and go ahead and grab a Welder straight back and put it straight into play for more acceleration, which is great. And then we have our attacking cast. We have 2 copies of the Flare Starter Volcanion. If you're able to Welder, Turn Attach, and Flare Starter, you can get 6 energies into play, which puts Heatran in range of everything for the following turn if you can Welder again. So going second is my choice. Like, I would choose to go second with this deck for the reasons that I've just mentioned, Flare Starter and Welder, pretty much. You want to get a heap of energies out of the deck to declump, and also so that when Heatran is knocked out, you're then like making your crystals really live. So the idea is usually big Hot Burn as early as possible into big Fireball Circus, and then things like Cramorant or a couple hits into something to close out the game is really the idea here. So yeah, Volk is fantastic for that. Also, of course, High Heat Blast is not a bad attack. It's going to help you beat the Decidueye matchup if it's a thing. It's also going to chip in, you know, it can knock out things like Zacian on turn 2 thanks to weakness. So yeah, never too shabby of a card to have in here. 2 copies of Heatran-GX. It's important enough to play 2 copies, I think, in this new age where Burning Road stealing a bunch for himself is just going to be fantastic. Steaming Stomp can knock out a bunch of 1-prize things, and Hot Burn GX is Really good flexible damage, and pretty much just has that insane damage cap. If you have gone second, this card does get pretty silly. So yeah, the Heatran is a really awesome guy that can get through even the big VMAXs, which is great. 2 copies of Blacephalon. Fireball Circus is an attack that you have to use sparingly, like I've mentioned a few times at this point, but it still has insane damage caps. So yeah, we're still playing 2 of those in here. Finally, we have the package of 1 Cramorant and 1 Galarian Zigzagoon, as well as Scoop Up Nets. So Cramorant is a great finishing guy for us. Spit Shot, discarding all energies for a Welder attachment, can knock out Dedenne clean, but also having the 1 Galarian Zigzagoon means we can help reach on the likes of Crobats, on the likes of Eldegoss, on the likes of Oricorios even. So yeah, the Zigzagoon Scoop Up Net gives us a lot more versatility for this Spit Shot to be a game-winning finishing move. Also, don't forget that this is our only colorless attacking Pokemon, so this is our means around Bronzong from Luke Metal players. So Cramorant is a mandatory copy, but also is just like used in most matchups because that Spit Shot is fantastic. If you happen to start the guy and go second, Beat Catch is never a bad thing either. It can go ahead and piece together, normally the likes of Hearth and Welder, let's be honest. So yeah, that's the Pokemon lineup. For trainers, it's relatively simplistic. We've got a couple of gears to help us push towards Welders because he's the main man. A couple Pokemon communications. We are playing 17 Pokemon, so these are quite live. You could think about playing Great Balls instead of this, but I think cherry picking is more important, so I'm playing comms. 4 copies of Quick Ball, just to go ahead and pick out our key stuff again. The 3 Scoop Up Nets not only works on Jirachi, but also that Zigzagoon, like I've mentioned with Cramorant, as well as 4 copies of Switch. The reason why I have more Switches than Scoop Up Nets is because oftentimes you will be weldering to certain things and then wanting to get Burning Road value, so you have to maximize the Switches first, then add the Scoop Up Nets. I flip-flopped both and then realized like the Switch is way more important, because if you just start any random Pokemon and you want to welder onto it and get into a hot burn, you need to use Switch rather than Scoop Up Net, right? So you can find yourself weldering to Jirachis, weldering to a Baby Blown on like turn 1, knowing that you can then dig towards the Heatran. So the Switches have to be the maximum copies first, but Scoop Up Net obviously has that benefit of freeing up board space for you, as well as being usable for that Zigzagoon. So you want to have a high count of both of these, but that's just why I'm on more Switch than Scoop Up Nets. I'm playing 4 copies of Hearth. Yes, it's that important. You got to thin this deck as quickly as possible. You want your Welder live as quickly as possible as well. If you want to just play 3 copies and a Marshadow, that's not a bad idea either. Chaotic Swell is not seeing a huge amount of play in the format, I want to say. It can be played in ADP. It can be played in Eternatus. It can be played in Inteleon. But they all of those decks have alternate stadiums as well. Like there's Viridians that could be played in ADP and Eternatus. Training Courts mostly played in Inteleon. And there's also things like Dark City and stuff like that for Eternatus and Black Market, Prism Star. So there's a bunch of reasons why I'm not too scared of Swell right now. Also, you really enjoy the fact that Mewtwo's kind of creeping into the format because it's another deck that plays a bunch of Giant Hearths for you. So I think Swell isn't a big enough threat to add Marshadow, but if you want to just play 3 Hearth and a Marshadow, be my guest. Other than that, pretty routine stuff. 16 energy is a good number, I think, to see and maintain throughout the game. It means we can have a bunch still remaining in the deck even after 7 energy hot burn, for example. It means we have enough to try and Spit Shot once or twice if we have to in certain matchups. So yeah, I think that's all very good. A few other cards that I've definitely considered in this list. A second copy of Cramorant / Double, which I mentioned earlier on in the video. Obviously, Double being, again, just something you can just welder and attach onto, and you have really good baseline damage output, that 120 plus 30 more for each prize card your opponent's taken. This can act like an extra early game Heatran. If you just happen to draw into this guy, you can welder attach and Revenge Blast for that 120 and get through a bunch of basics. Also, you can just use it in that late game, and he can be a great way to clear off even things like Tag Team GX Pokemon if they go down to 5 prize cards, for example. So that can be pretty cool for you. Another thing is, of course, Reshizard. Where are we? One of these. So many Charizards. Reshizard's a decent guy. Obviously, he has more hit points than anything else that has... well, anything else in the deck, so you can at least force Gust from your opponent on certain turns, where at the moment pretty much everything is super squishy, so your opponent can just like ignore boss and just go through the active every single turn and try and race you in that regard, or just like boss Dedenne to like close a game or whatever. But having the Reshizard at least forces those sorts of plays, and also having another 3 energy attack that can just do 200, an alternative to Hot Burn GX, can sometimes be really valid, or you just want a sort of safe haven to put your energies onto in the first place. This can also be a very decent dude. He can also be very good against ADP as well, of course. You could search him out early, have that double Blaze GX ready. Outrage is very strong against them as well, because a lot of ADPs aren't playing damage mods, so Reshizard sticks around, and then you can Outrage or Flare Strike, do whatever you want, really. It's a good one-off to have in the deck if you really wish. The reason why I'm not playing Ninetales is I feel it is too stringent on your energy attachments in the first place. Also, it does sort of detract from the overall consistency of hitting those welders, because I do think it's important to fill your bench with all this other stuff. But if you do want to add in one copy of Boss's Orders or one copy of Great Catcher, that could put a good shift in. So those are all decent options for you. So let's jump into the ladder now, see how this deck goes. It's been my favorite way to play just like pure fire. I think this is going to be stronger than just like a quad baby Blacephalon going forward, because quad Blounds is very, very volatile to Marnie these days. Their replacement for Fiery Flint is Energy Spinner, and that really does suck in the sort of mid-game. It's not the same sort of animal, so if they're getting stamped, if they're getting Marnied, they are really quite a poor deck. So I think having a few options and then weaving in one big KO is probably the best way that I can see Blounds working in the future. So we'll see how it goes on the ladder today. Because I've been enjoying it, to be honest. I think it's a decent type coverage. I like the pressure that Heatran can put on a lot of decks. So yeah, lots to like here. Losing the coin flips never too bad, because it can let us go second depending on what our opponent's playing. You're not too unhappy going first either. You can get some extra energy sort of down on the board. You get extra Stellar Wishes and a few things like that to actually work towards pieces, so you're less stressed on hitting that welder immediately. But given the choice, we would like to go second, and we are going to get to go second here, which is cool. And we straight away start with Jirachi into Switch for the Volcanion. So all we're really looking for from the Stellar Wish is a Ball Search card. So that's a good kickoff for us, I would say. Very nice. Looks like we're staring down a Zigzagoon. Zigzagoon can be Obstagoon, but it's most likely going to be Eternatus, right? Ooh, okay, so it's an addition in Inteleon for damage modification as well. That's the alternative. One good thing about this welder-based list compared to something like Centiscorch is you do actually have a much better time against Inteleon, because your stuff is 1 and 2 prize based anyway, so you can still just do a prize exchange and the actual weakness doesn't come into effect too much. So, not too bad here. Much better than Centiscorch staring down Inteleon, at least. Because I want Ball Search so badly, I will Pokégear first. We do have a big whiff. And now we will Stellar Wish, try and hit a Ball Search card, which we do. Looks like we're just going to Flare Starter. Ideally, we we actually go to Dedenne here, and we still try and hit Welder. Because Inteleon's so big that we actually need to get like both in conjunction with one another. So I am going to try and make a push here. I don't think I'm content just getting 4 energies into play, because it ends, like, if the Volcanion gets knocked out, it ends up with 3 in play, and that's not enough for us to respond on Inteleon. So ideally we try and grab Welder here. I'm happy comming and going for Crobat here. I can try and thin Crobat in prize cards. That's not really good. I can switch for Stellar Wish. That's not going to work either. Okay, so it looks like we're going to have to settle for where we're at. I want to try and get something that's going to tank an attack from Inteleon, even if they have Gust play. So I think that means Cramorant is up here. Next turn I'm probably just Dedenne changing this hand. Switching out of Jirachi after Stellar Wish. And I have another Ball Search card for Heatran/Blown plays. So I think I just want something that's tanky right now. Alternate option is to grab Oricorio. Yeah, Oricorio is probably better. It's very rare that it gets knocked out. So we will just Flare Starter to this guy. Because he needs to, you know, Frostmoth, Inteleon VMAX, Boss, Scoop Up Net, Ping. It's like so much work. So I'm going to put this guy here, hoping that he doesn't have the absolute flames in hand of like Bucket, 2 stage 1s, Scoop Up Net, Boss. especially with one boss already played. But we did do a couple good things there. We got 3 energies in the discard pile early. We missed our early game Welder, which kind of is a shame, off of 1 Pokégear and a Dedenne. We did it in a like funky order though. It wasn't like a back-to-back. We just did like a random 7 dip into a random 6 dip, so you can see how we whiffed, but I choose to research rather than Marnie here, so that they can try and find more pieces to actually get rolling. Obviously, they only need to do the 60 damage prod to kill the active, but if they want to start pressurizing Jirachi at the same time, they're probably going to want to scoop up net and do the 160-60. Training Court's going to get them that extra energy that they can Ice Dance. Do they have the switching card to boot? If so, is it going to be a net or a switch? Monka S. They can still potentially DAA change. Looks like that's what we're going to see here. Quick balling away. Another quick ball. For a Crobat. They do get the scoop up net, so they can take the double knockout here. Oh, choosing to leave the Jirachi alive. So maybe they're sniping Dedenne? Huh. I don't know why they'd leave Jirachi alive. Do you think misclick? Probably misclick, right? Probably misclick. Alright, so with only 3 energies in play, for us, we can't kill this Inteleon with anything but Baby Blown. But you know what? Our hand is pretty good for trying to kill him. We can Quick Ball out the Blown, Stellar Wish switch, or do I try and actually get the... Because then we have 9 card dig. Okay, we're starting here. That lets me weld. Let's weld to a Blown and switch into it. This is going to be a big turn to try and hit this, but we actually have a decent amount of dig. We already have 3 in the bin. Scoop Up Net and Switch is very good, and Stadium is very good. This is all good news. What are we looking for from this Jirachi? Probably just Thinning card. We probably just want Thinning card here. We don't want to take the crystal because we want to draw into that afterwards. So we want to see some red cards. We want to see some crystals. This is all going great. So because I want to see fire energies, I should Oricorio before the Hearth. Also hitting Zigzagoon Scoop Up Net could help us push. So we get the KO here, which is pretty good. Five, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So I can get rid of all of these and hold Ziggy Net, which I think is the right play. It was a nice push from us. Like I said, we got those 3 energies in the discard pile early, which was a good shout. The Jirachi's put in a good shift. He really should have battered the Jirachi, though. I don't know what he's really trying to play around there. Welder decks aren't going to stamp you. Alright, they can make us Lapras, though. They can try and go for an Ocean Loop play. We do pick out our Crobat from prizes as well as Heatran, which isn't too shabby. Gonna try and ping Oricorio. Some Inteleons actually play the Psychic Mimikyu these days to try and help out against Mewtwo, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. They're gonna bounce the Hearth for a Training Courts. They do hit the bucket, so if they find the Switch card, they can Ocean Loop into the active. They also have potential to boss. They're going to Marnie, which is more scary than boss. But at least we have Oricorio online. Drawing into a lot of crystals ain't too bad. How many Switch outs have I played? I've played 3 Switch and 1 Scoop Net, so I'm pretty happy to still go into our Jirachi here, I think. We're probably just looking for a Heatran player, right? Oh, he has to pass into us, so I think that should be enough for game. All I need to do is attack into the active this turn, and then we have the Cramorant play for game, / the Heatran play for game. So I will always play this. I think I will always Crystal once as well, so I can manually attach to a Cram here. I'm not upset if he Gust kills Cram, because we would have Heatran live with the Oricorio side of things. So I think this is looking fine. Obviously, missing an attack from him is really bad. But I think we're looking in very good shape here. Com gives us the access to Heatran immediately, which is really good. I'm only really afraid if we get like Stamp plus Psychic Mimikyu drops down this turn. That's the only thing I'm afraid of, really. Forced to Dedenne change. Wow, look at that! Look at that back row. Looking very rough for him. Chose not to manually attach to Lapras either, which I feel like you have to do because you're not going to be able to chain Ocean Loops. Probably going to be a concede in a sec. We're not afraid of gusting Cram, because we can just calm out our Heatran now. I mean, I also have 250 in hand with the Blown. Training Court. What a treat. Alright, that's a good start for us. Beating up the blue deck. A Welder deck that's got a better Inteleon than Center Scorch, at least. I do think we probably should have lost that game if he had Zigzagoon correctly. Actually, we top decked Jirachi anyway, and we were bidding excess switches, so we still would have basically had the same turn. Very similar turn. All we did was thin a Pokégear anyway with our extra Stellar Wish, so... You know... All things being equal, I think we still get there. We'll get into another game, though. We are going second. We do have Welder hopefully getting us Com activation. Like I said, we don't mind attaching to Oricorio early if we can go ahead and find Heatran and move straight into it. We are staring down a Luke Metalization by the looks of things. They are playing Bronzong, so we'll have to check to see if Cramorant is here. They're going to attach and Sword, and they do hit an energy card. Alright, we hit Quick Ball, which is awesome. I'm going to start with the Welder, though, because we're always going for an early Steaming Stomp here, no matter what. We need so little to be able to Blown win the game that I will start thinning the fires straight away. Heatran is in here. So I think we're just gonna calm this in, grab Heatran, and then Dedenne change. Get our energy drop onto Heatran just in case. We do hit a switch, which is awesome. Proactively benching the second Heatran is very good against Reset Stamp, so I'll do that. We already have the Oricorio to help out against Stamp as well. So let's Steaming Stomp, take our first 3 prizes. He can respond quite quickly. But basically, as long as we can respond on his Zacian, then Cramorant can clean up the one of Bronzong. Also, he basically can't ever Full Metal Wall. One annoying thing about Bronzong is post-GX attack plus Goggles means you actually tank a 1 Cramorant hit. But pre-GX attack, they still flop, so... Alright, they're going to go ahead and grab Bronzor and research here. Are they able to stamp us or no? No stamp. Okay, so we can instantly respond on this with Heatran, and then it's just down to us to eventually find Cramorant and blow through him. So I do not want to draw any of these cards anymore. Cramorant is in here, right? Yeah, we're good, we're good. Let's weld. Let's attach. Let's not bench Cramorant too soon, just in case I die to random Sorcerer attach Gust. It's the only way I'm losing this game at this point. We will put more cards down to play around Reset Stamp. And we'll just stomp. Sat on game right now. So it's down to them to stamp us. Even then, we have a lot of time. They are going to make a Bronzong. Can they stamp us or no? Sinlin isn't Marnie. Alright, we get there. Very nice. Let's spit on that Bronzong. We'll get one more game in. That was very fast. You do make very fast work of the metal decks. The only times where you're concerned is like if they just lead out like double Bronzor, and then like you're forced to Cramorant earlier on in the game, and then if they can like Sorcerer attach, kill your Cramorant with a Zacian, and then also make another Bronzong, that's the only time you're worried. So if you want to play double Cram just to help out against prizing and those random spots where they just start double Bronzor, which is super rare by the way, or if you want to play a Dubwool because Dubwool's just a decent card anyway, by all means. We're once again going second, which is what we're all about here. And we once again have we actually have Volk Welder Switch, so we have the full package already going on. So this is going to be a good turn for us. Looks like we're up against a fellow Weldums. They are playing Jirachi as well, so I might make the assessment based on which Welder deck they are, whether I want to just High Heat Blast turn 1. Because High Heat Blast for that early 1 prize is so good when you're leading into 1 big KO into Cramorant. Depends if they're Senti based or not. So they're playing Baby Blounds as well. When they're playing Baby Blounds, I'm quite happy to just take the initiative on the Jirachi. Very happy, actually. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to start by getting rid of our Giant Hearth. We have 4 of our 1 prize Pokemon, or sorry, 3 of our, yeah, 4, because 2 in hand and 2 in deck. We have a bunch of our 1 prizes. An early High Heat Blast ain't a bad thing at all. Right, let's see what the Wish can give us. The only thing I'm lacking is a turn attachment. I can do a ton of Stellar Wishing if I want to. How do I want to play this? I think I always want to get our second Volk out. I think I do want to Dedenne change because I really want to get an attachment in. But I'll start by getting some extra wishes in, I think. Okay. Alright, we'll just play a bit more defensively, I guess. Alright, we got our energy attachment in, which is cool. Denying Stellar Wishes from them. They already have 2 fires in the discard pile, so Giant Hearth, Welder, Crystal from them gets us dead. They already have the Welder, so we're probably response KO'd here. They're forced to put down a 2-prizer, which is nice. Cramorant looking like a great play for us next turn. They're playing Boss's Orders in their list, good to know. Dancing for some cards. Circus. Because they're also attaching excess energies, it tells me they're also playing Heatran, no doubts. We keep getting free Hearth discards, which is nice. We have to be a little bit careful about our Welder uses. Try and find a quick ball here. Or a calm. Clutch one towards the end. Let's have a little tantrum. Let's have a little bit of spit as well. I'll hold the Scoop Up Net stuff. With Giant Hearth in play, it shouldn't be too difficult for him to response KO. Eldegoss from prizes is actually pretty important here. Not necessarily bad news for us. Okay. Alright, there's the net. So my biggest question mark is how easy it's going to be for him to take knockouts on other 2-prize Pokemon going forward. I really want to try and kill him with Arblaze this turn. Actually, I should just try and kill him with with a Heatran. No, I don't know. We'll see what this does first. I already have the Blown KO if I want the Blown KO. I KO Blown with my Blown, then he Blowns my Blown. Or he Blown Gusts, and then I try and make a Heat trying to make him Gust again, I guess. So it should be a Blown that we make. It's another situation where we would kind of like that second Cramorant in the list. Or a double, because he's also tanky. How many Switch nets have we played? 3 and 2. It's not actually that great for us to do that with Jirachi, especially because I probably need to Eldegoss next turn. So I don't think I'll put a Jirachi down. I think I'll just take my prize. How many does that make into the discard pile now? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So he's probably still got more of these to go. They have their own Cram this turn. If Cram's the only way he can take the knockout, that's really good for us. Obviously. Problem being, obviously, if he attacks Blown with Blown, I have to go for a one prize Pokemon. And we have, again, not much that can tank. It's another situation where Reshizard would be pretty cool as well. But I mean, he has Cramorant anyway, so... You can see where his setup's going. He's trying to go Blown into Cram for game. If he Welder attaches to Cram this turn, we actually can't do anything to stop that. If he's cramming first because he doesn't have enough energy, obviously we can win with Heatran. Oh, he plays Reset Stamp. Wow, Blown's that feels consistent enough to play Stamp, huh? Thinking face. So now maybe Cramorant, if he can kill our Oricorio with a Stamp, is a good play from him. Also, killing with Blown is probably the safest move he can make. If he can Blown the Blown. Obviously got rid of a Scoop Up Net, so he always has a switch out here. Okay, he's Blowning the Blown. He's pretty much set up game for himself here. And what can I do to prevent this? I'm pretty sure this is checkmate. I don't know why he's playing the crystal. Oh, he has to play the crystal now for the kill. I see. Yeah, I think that is game wrapped up from him. So you can see how a Gust effect would be pretty helpful in the deck. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to Welder and Boss here, so we'd be like dead on that front anyway. But second Cram would give us a win condition here. Double wouldn't give us a win condition. So yeah, I think we are just toast. We'll just say well played for that one. Because I can only take the one and he's got guaranteed Cram for game. So we just gotta scoop that one up. Interesting to see that regular Blown is still just kind of getting there. We do play a number of one prize Pokemon. But I still think that's kind of just like the mirror in a nutshell, right? You're just trying to weave as many one prize Pokemon in their face as possible He does play a bit more Gust than us, so that's kind of a reason why we lost. But yeah, that's going to be Welder Blounds, I guess. Weld Blounds. I don't know what you want to call it. Like I said, we can think about more Crams, Dubs, Reshizards, Bosses, Great Catchers. Those are kind of all cards that I'm sort of mulling over right now. But I'm pretty happy with how the engine's rocking. You saw just how well it was working against that Inteleon player. The Zigzagoon put in work. It helped us kill that Oricorio. I think it's most important for Eternatus because it's quite a resource-heavy matchup without the Zigzagoon because the Cramorant's not powerful enough. So making one big hot burn into one big Fable Circus is like quite a lot to do, especially if they are Marnieing and stamping the whole time. But just getting one Fable Circus or one hot burn off and then going for like an easy one prize knockout and a cram kind of kill is a lot easier. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this list. How have you been enjoying Welder? Do you think this is better or worse than Welder Mewtwo? Do you think this is kind of being slept on right now? How have you been building Blounds? Are you still sticking with the quad baby Blound and just trying to fireball as much as possible? I'll hear it all down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video tomorrow. Cheers.